and a warm welcome. My name is Alexander Leitner. Join me as we go into the Philips Live Innovation Experience 2017 to uncover some of the latest technology in healthcare. Yes, well, thanks so much for making the time to chat to us. I think every year we come to the innovation experience, and every year we see more and more how Philips is really growing its innovation in the healthcare space. Do you want to take us through kind of where the strategy is going and how it's evolving?
Well, you can clearly see that we focused all our resources, all our research and our brain power on health technologies, and that's what we're showing here today. And I think what we're showing is almost two sides. We want to make an impact in primary care, where we show innovation in how to achieve better access and quality in primary care settings, where things as electricity, clean water are not a given. And on the other hand, we bring things like Azurion, where with image-guided therapy, we really bring minimal invasive surgery to a maximum level. So it covers the whole spectrum of health technologies.
So Azurion has been introduced globally in February this year, so it's pretty new. And it's aiming at a totally new concept. So cath labs normally, traditionally, they are looking more on the interventional procedure as such, but this Azurion now is also focusing on the whole workflow. And that's very important because burden, let's say, cardiovascular disease is killer number one in the world, still today, all over the world, also in Africa, also in South Africa. And by that, it's very important to get, let's say, this treatment to patients done, let's say, in areas where this normally is not done at this moment in time. So traditionally this is in the higher university hospitals, very complex cases, etc. Yes, we do that. So we're focusing on the university hospitals, the complexity of cases, to improve the communication in staff, because the more complex a procedure will be, the more staff there will be there. But we're also focusing on areas where there is no treatment whatsoever at this moment in time, and where we are focusing on the education of staff, because these people, they are not as well trained, and how can we help with technology to bring interventional treatment into these areas as well.
So you were saying lab, so it's not just a machine with a bed and a screen, it's actually an entire room and additional complementary rooms that actually make up this entire unit.
Correct. Conventional systems are focusing more on the lab, as you were mentioning, a table and a gantry and a monitor, but this system is focusing on the procedure. So there's a whole procedure, there's a lot of devices in there, and of course that means that it's making the treatment. So the treatment is not only our equipment, there's also a lot of devices in there, so from stands or catheters or what have you, and the utilization of that makes the whole procedure. And we are focusing on the whole procedure and educate and train patients and people on treating our systems.
So what does the Azurion bring to the proverbial table in terms of treatments? What difference will people expect if they're ever in that situation?
So what I would expect is that, let's say, depending, as I was mentioning before, if you go into complex cases, there is a lot of high technology in there to guide these teams. Azurion will help them utilizing these teams or utilizing this type of technology way more better than ever before. So by guiding them, by telling them exactly what to do, by teaching them and helping them. So that type of technology is also available, let's say, for the rural areas, as I mentioned. So the educational part is a key element in the Azurion. Moreover, let's say, bringing all the information together. If you have a complex case, you may have a lot of information coming from other modalities like an MRI or a CT scanner, or maybe a patient has had a previous type of intervention before. And during your treatment, you don't want to leave your clean area as your examination room, just getting and browsing through books. You like to get that information available on the spot in your examination room. That's also where Azurion plays a role. So it's gathering all the information together from all devices, from anything, even you can connect your own laptop if you want to, and operate it from the control room so that you can have a guidance much better than ever before.
And does that also mean that as a patient would spend less time in hospital, recover faster?
Let's say the main aim of this is in fact reducing procedure times. because procedure times, and it's of course it's not, it can be very diverse. So you can have a procedure time that can take only 20 minutes, but I have also seen cases which takes 9 hours. So but our aim is to reduce whatever the complexity of the case is, to reduce the procedure time. The shorter the procedure time, the lower the risk for patients, because patients die on tables. So there is a mortality on this type of procedure. So how can you reduce the procedure time efficiently without affecting or even improving the clinical outcome?
So this is a business that Philips had acquired not too long ago as part of a bigger cardiovascular strategy.
Yes. So Philips decided to divest in the territory where they were, which was lightning, and to really focus on healthcare. And this was really one of the commitments from Philips, when they acquired Volcano, to really tackle cardiovascular disease.
A lot of people losing limbs, losing lives through cardiovascular disease and peripheral artery disease. Do you want to just take us through that in a bit more detail?
Yes, I can. So coronary artery disease is disease that takes place inside the arteries of the heart. Peripheral artery disease is disease that takes place in the arteries as well as the veins, which is everything outside of the heart. So if you look at the stats today, that you'll see as we're standing here, there's actually every 30 seconds a patient that's losing a limb globally around the world, and that there's about 250 million patients that suffers from peripheral artery disease that doesn't know about it.
So this machine essentially is just another tool in a doctor's arsenal to be able to analyze these diseases easier, find better solutions to it. Do you want to take us through some of the technology you've got in your hand there? Yes. to do some of the analysis?
Perfect, yes. So what I have in my hand here is firstly a pressure wire for IFR measurements. IFR measurements is actually a pressure measurement that we do inside the artery. So that means that once you've been on the cath lab table and they've done an angiogram, they've taken a picture of what either the right coronary arteries or the left coronary arteries looks like, they would then put this pressure wire with a pressure sensor past the lesion or the area where the narrowing is. They'll do a pullback, and this system will give them a single measurement. And a single measurement will actually guide the physicians in terms of making a decision whether they should treat or whether they should defer a patient. So defer will basically mean that they will send the patient home, they will follow them up, it will be with medication, and when they treat, it actually means that they intervene. So they could balloon, they could put a stent in, or they can do other procedures as well.
Then you had another interesting item here with 64 cameras?
So
on
yes,
the tip, is that right?
Yes, so 64 elements, which represent 64 cameras on the tip of the catheter, and you actually put this inside the artery to see what's going on inside the artery, because the artery is a 360 or a 3D device, if you can say so, and an angiogram is a luminogram, so it doesn't give you the 360 view. So once again, once you've now seen that you need to treat a patient with the pressure wire, you will then take the IVUS catheter and you would also put it past the area of interest where the narrowing is, and you want to see what kind of plaque is inside the artery.
And that's this visual representation here. This is what's happening on in the background here. You can...
Absolutely.
For the untrained eye, it looks like a lot of turning spirals, but for the trained eye, like yourself, there's quite a bit of information that's coming up on here.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So when you look at this, you actually see the 360 degree view, and that means, you know, that area there is where you go through the tube, so you're inside the artery. This we call the longitudinal, because this is actually, as you pull the catheter back, like this in the heart, it actually gives you a view of what's going on inside the artery here. So yes, for a trained eye, you know, I can, for instance, tell you that there's quite a lot of plaque there. It's very important for the physician to know what kind of plaque is inside the artery, because depending on the kind of plaque that's inside the artery will depend on the stent size and the selection of treatment from a physician.
How is Africa doing in the healthcare space compared to the rest of the world? Are we leading in some instances? Are there some things that are unique to Africa?
Well, first of all, Africa is a huge continent. So if you talk about Africa, it's difficult to talk about one Africa, right? But as mentioned, I think access and quality is still a challenge. So we need to work on models where we offer more access and more quality. But on the other hand, there are very, very good high-end academic private hospitals that drive innovation. It was not for nothing that you guys did the first heart transplant, right? So there is a lot of innovation, but at the primary care at the bottom, yeah, we still need to do. And that's why universal healthcare is becoming more and more of a topic. Not only because you want to give access to everybody, but also to avoid that all these people go straight into the hospitals. Because there is a burden on the hospitals, government hospitals and private hospitals. So I think that is one of the challenges Africa is focusing on. And if you think about technology, yeah, mobile technology is talked about a lot. Everybody more or less has a feature phone or a smartphone. So there are many applications, and we've done tests where we use a mobile ultrasound, meaning that you take your Android phone and you basically have the probe, and that's it. And you can send healthcare workers out into more rural areas to look for risky pregnancies. So instead of waiting till this becomes an issue, we send proactively healthcare workers into the rural areas. It's just a smartphone, a tablet and a probe. And they can do a test, an ultrasound, and based on that refer people, if needed, the mother, if needed, to hospital to prevent them waiting because it's far away. And waiting normally is not a good sign because then they wait till something serious happens. So yes, there are many opportunities.
Philips as a business on the continent, how is that growing? How is that doing?
Well, we are in 5 different districts. Because Africa is a very vast continent. We have a number of different types of businesses. We are doing a lot in our solutions business, and the solutions business is where you really work with partners, NGOs, governments to drive a real solution, which could be driving primary healthcare, which could be setting up a hospital. That business is doing very well, especially in East Africa, and getting a lot of traction there. We also have our more regular business where we continue selling to the hospital that has already bought our products over the last years, which is also doing well. And in our consumer business, yeah, we're really driving that healthy choice message. So overall, we see challenges. Africa is volatile, but there are many, many opportunities that we're very happily pursuing.
We're taking a quick break. Join us after the break as we look at some more innovation in technology from Philips. For many on the continent, access to even the most basic healthcare is almost non-existent. And we've caught up with some of Philips's extensive experts to find out what are some of the solutions Philips has come up with to bring the hospital to the bedside and make even the most simplest of tests and healthcare available to those who really need it.
This is now an ultrasound. It's an ultra-mobile ultrasound system.
Take us through it. How does it work?
Okay, so basically the system boots up in 25 seconds. It has Wi-Fi connectivity, Bluetooth connectivity. You can connect to any PACS system. And if the system is completely charged, you can scan for 1.5 hours without having it plugged in. So in terms of portability, that's your portability. Very simple to use, exactly like a smartphone in terms of your touch screen ability, zooming into the image and stuff like that. And then it has presets already loaded into the system. So you're basically ready to go. You put your probe in and you can choose your preset and you're ready to scan. You have a wider range of probes than what you saw before. Okay. So now we are able to actually scan the heart. The system you saw before, we could just only do abdominal scanning and scan the baby. Now we can scan the heart, we can scan soft tissue, we can scan vascular, we can do transvaginal scanning as well. So
it's moving away from just being a mother and child unit to actually a more comprehensive unit on the whole, and once again focused on taking it into areas where you would not have access to this kind of technology in a local hospital.
Yes.
And I see it's also got quite a nifty stand here.
Yes, so the stand actually acts as a handle as well. Right. So you actually carry it along like this, and then when you get to your bedside, you actually then can just plonk it down as a stand.
and then you get once you get back to the hospital, you would plug it in again, charge it,
Yes.
and be ready for,
Yes.
for the next day.
The device I have now actually looks at your patient at the point of care. May it be from a primary healthcare aspect or from a ED department or even an ambulance, and it helps us look at our patient to see if there's any acute coronary syndrome events. So with the troponin T marker that we are checking here, we can rule out or look at our patients in terms of did they have a cardiac or a heart attack or not.
So how does it work practically? Just take us through the steps.
Okay.
As to how do we get a result?
So stepwise, first I would go through and scan my patient, literally barcode scanning or RFID, whichever is first.
So is this something
Patient
I've got as a
patient? So a patient would normally have a barcode scanning in hospital or barcode in hospital,
Okay, right,
whereby
okay.
they would either dispense the medicine or so it would come from the hospital information system.
Right, so you've got my data on there now, okay?
Yes. So what then happens is it takes you step by step through what we need to do from a care perspective. So there's not a massive amount of training for our healthcare providers. It is fairly intuitive in terms of user interface. So first what I would do is I would insert the cartridge. All the reagent is in this cartridge already. So what you would do is literally insert it.
And this cartridge is specifically for a particular test?
Yes, this one is specifically for troponin. So
Okay,
there's
right, okay. And then there's different
basically-
cartridges for different
Yes,
different
there
diseases,
would
okay?
be, and then there's also a different family of mini cares doing
Okay.
different things. Yeah. So a sample, normally we would prick a patient, so it's a finger prick, or you could draw blood. So with this, we are simulating a finger prick for the patient, as we don't want to prick anybody today. So one
goodness.
droplet is all that you need.
Right.
What then happens, this machine has got about 50 fail-safes in. That means it checks itself, it checks the cartridge, it checks the sample, and it checks the reagent that we use to ensure that this is an accurate sample. It will not analyze until you literally close and goes through the system, because you need a certain temperature. It also checks that. If it's not right, it will throw out the sample. It can actually upload, when the information's finished, it actually uploads the information to either the hospital information system or the laboratory information system, depending on what workflow the hospital is actually using.
And is that Bluetooth, Wi-Fi?
So this would go with your LAN connection.
Okay, so
it's got a
data point there.
there.
3 seconds to go.
Yes.
All right.
And then also what it does, so then it'll save it through. It also checks and updates the device while it's connected to the network.
Okay, so there's new software updates.
Exactly,
all those
pushes it
things.
through from that side. It also enables Philips to monitor the health of the device, and if there's any issues, preemptively say, listen, there's a problem, let's look at it, or we've got an update, we need to look at this, or the cartridges are not working, let's look at it and fix.
And does this have to be calibrated on a regular basis?
No, it self-checks, there's no calibration
Okay.
in terms of the device.
All right, so you've got a result,
And I've
bingo.
got a result already for the patient, giving me an indication positive or negative with this.
How are your conversations going in terms of complementary businesses to the technology that you're bringing to the table, in terms of their support and their integration into the technology that you're bringing to the continent?
Yeah, so if you think again back to primary care, traditionally you think about care in healthcare maybe a piece of equipment, but we know here you need electricity, you need clean water, so you bring a lot of different stakeholders and a lot of different partners together. And by doing so, you actually force and drive innovation, not only in the products, but also, for instance, in the services. Because in our community life centers, which is a form of primary healthcare, we actually learn that you need to embed it in the community, and with that also allow and enable the community to generate small businesses around it. Because if you offer lighting, it's a very simple thing, right? But if you offer lighting, it also means that people can continue longer in the evening. They can have a small barber shop that operates with light in the evening. So it's not always the innovation of the product, it's the whole ecosystem around it.
I'm joined by James, who is the expert on the community outreach package that Philips has created. Now James, this is a fantastic backpack that you've got here with a solar panel, but it's not your ordinary laptop bag. What's in the bag, James?
Okay, in the bag we have the different equipment, medical equipment.
What would you use this equipment for? What is the main purpose of the community outreach bag?
It's used by the community healthcare workers and the midwives to check the vital signs of the patient. Also, it also strengthens the primary healthcare, and then also in case of transfer for further management of the patient.
So it takes the hospital environment to
the people
where they are.
Yes, it's accessibility. We're looking at the sustainable goals where in 2030 we need to achieve the good health for all, for everyone. So this bag also, home visit, school visit, all the, what healthcare worker can use on this one.
So James, you've packed all the things that we've seen in hospital rooms into this bag, and let's quickly touch on some of these items. And I mean, I suppose the first thing people would say is, well, a lot of this equipment traditionally is very bulky and very big, but you've managed to reduce the size of these things.
Yes.
And it's all battery operated. So just take us through what we have over here. This is
for the blood. This is for the blood pressure.
Okay.
Yes, and it works with the phone. You have to download the Philip app on the phone. Through the Bluetooth, you are able to send every result to the doctor or to the specialist at the clinic or the hospital before you transfer. It monitors the pulse and the blood pressure. And it has colors here, classification, to categorize the result of the patient. To say with the green color, the patient is fine. When you come into the yellow one, we give health education to the patient to say, are you eating healthy? Are you exercising? Are you drinking?
Don't drink so much, don't smoke so much.
Yes,
it's not looking good. Okay, all right.
Then the orange one, you'll be like, okay, you might be having high blood pressure. Let's transfer you to the doctor so that you can start with treatment, and from then after 2 weeks or a week, depending on the doctor or the protocols, then they come back again. The red one, it's obvious, transfer. We're not negotiating. We send you to the hospital. You need more help or treatment.
So this integrates with a smart app on a smartphone?
Yes, Android 4 from 4 and iPhone 5 from iPhone 5. You can use that.
So the community outreach worker has to be equipped with a smartphone, and that integrates with that. And this is essentially covers your blood pressure.
Yes, the blood pressure and the heart rate.
This is a light. Why would I need a light in this backpack?
Remember, we're talking about accessibility of healthcare to the villages, or in case of electricity power failure, you have the light. Right. You're able to, we're avoiding accidents like paraffin or candle burning. You're able to use the light. And you can also increase the brighter. It's only 3 times, use it. And it also uses the solar to charge. It's a solar light.
So while the community workers on their way to wherever they're going, they can charge the light. But now there's also a cell phone on here. So is this sort of also a really advanced power bank as well?
Yes, the power bank for the phone.
To charge
the phone,
right.
Yes.
So this would you say this is sort of the basic kit?
Yes, this is the basic kit. We have 4 options, like I said.
Yeah.
The basic kit will, we have the 4 options for the healthcare worker. We have the basic kit, we remove this for the baby. Yes. Then we have the whole package for the basic. Then we have the Healthcare Worker Plus, where we include, I don't have the monitor with me, but on this booklet it's indicated, we have the monitor, yes, which is also for the blood pressure, the heart rate, and also for the temperature. In case this one fails for power, you can also use that, but it's for Healthcare Worker Plus. Then we have the bluish one here, it's for the heart rate, the ECG 100, it's used for the heart rate. Then the last one in the blue, the Healthcare Worker Plus is the pulse oximeter, which is used for the saturation, which is oxygen in the blood. It measures how you breathe, the respiration.
So that's the complete package, and that would all fit into this backpack as well?
Yes, that's for the basic healthcare worker. Then we have for the midwife, then we add the Doppler.
And let's talk about the Doppler here, because this is also quite an interesting bit of technology, because the technology in it seems to be the fact that it's actually almost low tech in terms of it's you hand power it.
Yes, you use kinetic energy to charge it. Right. For a minute, you charge it for a minute, then it can work for 20 minutes.
And what I mean, it doesn't have an LCD screen on it, but what can you pick up with this?
You use the gel for the fetal heart rate. Right. Pregnant women can be used. Identify any abnormalities or complications during pregnant. You palpate, still continue the palpation of the midwife. Then after identifying the position, you put the gel on, then put it on, then it will give you the rate. Then from then you rotate it there for a minute. You measure the fetal heart rate for a minute, and the normal one is from 110 to 160. So once it's below, you can refer the patient. Once it's above, then the patient is complicating or the fetus is distressing.
A lot of these technologies are are almost hidden from the public eye unless you're going to a hospital, unless you are on the front row. A lot of the sort of other part to the business, which is sort of the more consumer-facing brands, is sort of the more preventative items. Do you want to just take us through that product range in terms of what's happening on that front?
Yeah, I think we are uniquely positioned because we have both a consumer, a personal health business, and a more B2B business. And I think consumers nowadays, they know that they have to take care of themselves, and what we want to do is we want to give them healthy choices. So for instance, one of the products you might have seen is an air fryer, because everybody likes fried food, I like fried food, but I also know it's maybe not the most healthy choice. So we have a product where only with a tablespoon of oil you can actually get the same results as normally from a deep fryer. So what we offer in our products to consumers is a healthy choice. The same with juicers. You know juice is healthy, but you also know, or we want to tell you that if you buy maybe a pre-packaged juice, there could be a lot of sugar, why not make it yourself? So what we're doing really in the consumer space is helping, educating people to make a healthy choice, and at the end it's the choice of you and the other consumers that buy our products. Do you want to make a healthy impact in your life?
So that's it for the Philips Live Innovation Experience 2017. Thank you for joining me, and on that note, here's to your health. Gesondheid.